Shalom, shalom. Just waiting for people to come in. I want to say Wabati Walam. I'm just chilling out this Shabbat, and I'm going to go through something that I really want to talk about. So I'll give people a chance to come in, see if anyone's watching. The thing I want to talk about is something that I keep hearing brothers or people in the truth talk about, and that is something that I hear people say in defense of how Israelites go about treating the other nations, but more importantly, Esau. Some people want to argue or debate who Esau is. This isn't about who Esau is. Shalom to anyone coming. We're going to go into what I call the parable of the demonic bout. And before I get into what that exactly is or why I'm calling it a parable, I want to start off with some scriptures, because as Israelites, we have a right to be upset or angry with the way our nation or our people have been treated. Because for so long, we've been at the bottom of the pile. We're first fired, last hired, and it continues like this in a cycle perpetually. And yet some people might get jobs, and then once they get their jobs, they believe because they're in a good position, it's, oh, I'm okay, Jack, so all the other Israelites don't matter. But there's Israelites who are still struggling to get the same opportunities as our counterparts, as the other nation. So I'm going to start with this scripture, which is in Ecclesiastes. That's chapter 7, verse 7. And this scripture says, surely oppression make a wise man mad. Now, what does this mean? This means when things happen to us, it's okay for you as an Israelite to feel some type of way. It's okay for you to get mad. It's okay for you to be upset or angry about what's happening to us. You're not meant to be oppressed and be happy all the time. That's not normal behavior. If someone's oppressing you, you have the right to say, well, no, this is wrong, and I'm not going to do this or take this anymore. So the scripture says, surely oppression maketh a wise man mad. But here's the kicker. What does the scripture say about when you get mad? When you get angry, when things get you down, when things get to you because we're being oppressed, because we're in captivity? It says in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 26, it says, be ye angry and sin not. Not let the sun go down upon your wrath. So it's saying, yeah, you're allowed to be angry, but when you're angry or if something gets to you, something makes you upset, then don't sin, don't retaliate. So that means when you're out on the street, if you're out street preaching and you go into the other nation, yeah, you're allowed to be mad, because oppression make a wise man mad, but be angry and sin not. So we shouldn't be out there causing arguments or fights for no reason. We shouldn't be throwing hands, as some Israelites like to say. We should be able to have some cadence and some wit about us to be smart, because you can affect them or get the better of them by being smart, by doing better. We should be doing more business with each other. I know there's websites where they cohort loads of different black businesses, so you can buy from black businesses. So what is the parable of the demonic bout? This is a parable that I've come up with because I hear Israelites saying we shouldn't be angry at Esau or the other nations for what happened to us. And the reason they say it is because they say either the other nations or Esau, whoever we're on the opinion on, they say that the Most High used them, they were a tool. And the scripture does say the Most High set up over the earth, even the basis of men, and he does things and he sets these things up. However, even though the Most High put them in that position, we need to understand why we're allowed to be upset with them. So I start this off by giving you the parable. Now, imagine this. This is what the parable is. Imagine you're a child and you're in your parents' house and you do something wrong. Now, if you're from a background of Caribbean descent, Israelite descent, then you know what's going to go down if you don't obey the rules in the household. So what happens, your father takes up the bout, and to punish you for what you did wrong, for your transgression, for breaking the rules, he proceeds to give you licks. And I mean, as many licks as he can find. Or you might have been beaten with a cord from a plug. You might have been beaten with a stick or a slipper. No matter what you were beaten with, take that understanding, you being beaten with a slipper and a shoe, and after he's finished beating you with the slipper or shoe, he leaves you to go and think about what you did. because that's what a parent will do. It'll give you time to think over what you did, what I did wrong, and how you won't do it again. But the father still beat you with the slipper or the stick. Now, this is where Israelites come in. They say, well, see, the same way a parent beats the child with the slipper, the stick, or the shoe is the same way the Most High used the nations, who are the slipper, the stick, or the shoe, to beat the child. We were just getting taught. We were getting taught a lesson for what we did. However, what you need to understand is the other nations, when he used them to beat us, they continued to beat us. They didn't stop. So now imagine, after your parents beat you with the shoe, after your parents have beat you with the slipper, after your parents have beat you with the belt, your parent or your father leaves the room, and imagine some evil spirit, some demonic spirit jumps on that item, and it gets back up and it starts beating you on its own. And the father's no longer in the room, but now you're getting licks from a belt that your father's not using. And this is the same thing that happened with the nation. And this isn't me speaking. This isn't, I'm not making this up by myself. It's in the scriptures. So we're going to get some precept, because the scripture says in Isaiah 28:9, precept must be upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little and there a little. And that's how we get understanding. That's how we're weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast. That's how we understand and get wisdom. So I'm going to jump to Zechariah chapter 1 and verse 15. And if you're watching, if you jumping in late, if you're coming back, go back to the start of the video, because it's just a short video based on what I'm hearing Israelites saying that we're not really meant to blame the other nations for what they did to us, because the Most High used them. They were a tool for our punishment. However, that's not the case. You're allowed to be oppressed. You're allowed to be mad that we're being oppressed, and you're allowed to be angry. But when you're angry, when you're oppressed, sin not. We're still not meant to sin. We're not meant to take it into our own hands. The scripture says, or Messiah says, and the Most High says, vengeance is mine. So it's not our job to take out vengeance on the other nations. However, we are allowed to be mad. We are allowed to be angry with them. So this is Zechariah chapter 1:15. It says, and I am very sore displeased with the heathen. Now we know who he's talking about, that are at ease. Now, when you look around, I don't know where you are around the world, scattered to the four corners, because we're everywhere. But wherever you are, the heathen are at ease. They're living comfortably. They're in a position where it's easy for them to get jobs. They've got investments. They've got money passed down through their generation. And we're struggling out here. Israel are struggling wherever you go in the world, to the four corners. We're struggling, but they've got that money. So everything for them is easy. And it says, the Most High says, I am very sore displeased with the heathen that are at ease. For I was a little displeased, and they helped forward the affliction. So you see, this demonic belt that is whipping us now and has us oppressed isn't the Most High is doing now, because he said, I was a little displeased with you. But he's very sore displeased with the heathen, because they're at ease now. And he said they helped to forward the affliction. So now you've got this idea running through your head that, yeah, even though the Most High used them, he used them to a point where he wanted him to be himself to be satisfied that we had our punishment. We got our punishment. So we got our punishment, and then they helped to forward the affliction. So that's Zechariah chapter 1:15. So we never just jump to one precept. We always do more than one precept, because the scripture says that a triple braided cord is not easily broken. So I like to use 2 or 3 precepts to tie up my argument. So this is Jeremiah chapter 50 and 33, just to back it up, just to add to the understanding that the other nations, you're allowed to be upset with them. You're allowed to be angry, but sin not. Now, this is Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 33. It says, thus saith the Most High of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captive held them fast, and they refused to let them go. So again, the same way the scripture before said he was a little displeased with us and they helped forward the affliction, is the same way the scripture says the people who held us captive refused to let us go and held us fast. So again, this is that demonic belt. This is the nations who, although the Most High used them, he used them up to a certain point, and then they furthered the affliction and refused to let us go. So that's another scripture in the arsenal to show, yeah, don't sin, but understand that there's a reason you're allowed to be angry at oppression, and angry, but sin not. And the final precept, just to put the nail in the coffin, And shalom to anyone who's joined, anyone who's watching this. If you've got this far, then I hope you're understanding where I'm coming from with this. But what we need to understand, this final precept's telling us that the other nations, we have a right to be angry with them. They weren't just a tool that was used against us. There's more to it, because the Most High used them to do a certain job, and then the scripture says in Zechariah, they help forward the affliction, and in Jeremiah 50 and 33, it says that they refused to let us go, and that they held us fast. So even though they said, oh, we'll give you freedom, even though they're saying, oh, you got freedom now, we don't really have freedom, because we still have to work under their systems and under their people, and we're still not in a position where we should be, because we're a royal nation of kings and priests. So that final scripture is in Ezekiel 35 and 5, and this one puts the nail in the coffin. It says, because thou hast had a perpetual hatred and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword. And that's why I've put in the title, don't blame Esau, because people will say, oh, they can have their arguments about who Esau is, but it doesn't matter who you think he is. We know that his curse was to live by the sword. So that's how he got his kingdom in, was with the sword. So no matter who you think is, we understand that. So we know this is talking about Esau here, because it says by the force of the sword, in the time of their calamity, in the time that their iniquity had an end. So here it's showing us that although we sinned and we were getting punished for our iniquity, as the scripture says, our iniquity had an end. So you got to understand that this parable I'm telling you now is, imagine someone was there. Imagine the father was beating his child, in the tool he uses to beat the child. Doesn't matter what the tool is. It could be a belt, it could be a cord, it could be a slipper. Imagine after your father's left your room from punishing you, he's satisfied that you're punished. Imagine a evil spirit jumps on that item and it continues beating you, even though your punishment had an end, even though your iniquity had an end. So with that, I'll let you ponder on that understanding, and then think about what the other nations have done to us and what we're meant to be like in regards to them. This is not saying that the other nations or can't make it into the kingdom, because it says they're gonna hold on to the skirt of one which is a Jew or one which is a Hebrew, and that's how they're going to make it into the kingdom, because they're going to know their position and they're going to come in under Israel. However, it doesn't mean that we're meant to be pally with our enemy who has us in oppression. That's not how it works. So with that, I'd just like to say shalom, peace, blessings, wabati walam. I hope you're all having a blessed Shabbat, and I hope everyone's in the scriptures. That's what we like to do on our Shabbat. Just rest up, so we can be ready for the week ahead, so we can put in this work, so we can make it to Zion first and foremost, and keep the free feast as commanded. So with that, I'm going to say shalom and peace to my brothers, sisters, Ax, Akotis, Aqua, wherever you are, scattered to the four corners. Shalom, peace, love, and I'll see you next Shabbat, hopefully.